Join us today on the Final Hour podcast as we discuss the cup of judgment for America being full.
We interrupt your program to issue a severe warning for an impending emergency making its way to your area. We urge you to be watchmen of the times and to be prepared with the essential knowledge and supplies for the wake of the final hour.
Welcome to the Final Hour podcast, coming to you from the Original Living Word Christian Center out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. My name is Jim Hammond.
I'm Lonaiah Farrell.
I'm not Lonaiah Farrell.
Thank God.
I'm John Gapp.
And we have our producer, Jerry.
J-Do.
Hello.
Hi.
What's up,
Hello,
bud?
Jerry.
How you doing over there?
Good.
Good.
And so, again, we are going live Friday, March 31st at 10
It's gonna be
a.m.
good.
Join us live on YouTube.
And if you have questions, send them in. There should be a link on the website where you can send in your questions. We'll answer those on air.
Yes.
We'll do some live on-air questions, but
Join us Friday, March 31st, 10 a.m., live on YouTube. And so what do we have?
oh, I always get surprised at this.
Ooh.
Like the teacher's calling on me and I have to be prepared.
All right. Would
What do
you
we have?
please read your
But it always
book
catches
report
me off
to,
guard. I hated
to
that.
the class?
I really hated that. I am prepared, but it's still. Remember popcorn when you could like read something, then you could be like popcorn, then you call to somebody else.
call whoever
Did
you
you?
want,
Was
yeah.
popcorn not around when you were in school?
No.
Okay.
We did it differently, I think, than what MCA students
Oh, okay.
did. Yeah, because you like call.
Yeah, you'd say like popcorn, John, and then John would have to read, and you'd have to know where we were. And
Weird. Yeah.
but then the teacher got onto it, and like you'd read one
Yeah.
sentence in popcorn, so they made it where you had to read a paragraph. Sorry, you didn't get to experience that, Jim.
Sounds.
It was very,
enlightening.
South
very
Dakota
entertaining.
popcorn was
if you're
different.
mad at somebody
Yeah.
and you want to get them back, you'd be like popcorn. You'd say their name and you'd be like,
Popcorn,
"Good."
Lindsay.
She, that's my sister. She doesn't know where we're at. She's gonna
Yeah.
get in trouble for this. Yeah, and you popcorn. You'd be looking around. Anyways,
Teacher, I was not paying attention
Yeah.
at all. Where are we?
where are we? That wasn't a good thing. Anyways, okay.
What was the game we played a few weeks ago? That people were writing in about.
That
my
was
name is-
roll call.
Oh, roll call.
Yeah, I don't think that popcorn is going to go over as well as roll call.
no.
But
No,
we'll see.
nothing. Roll call is
Okay.
its own movement.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
So
Absolutely.
Do you got a roll call, Jim?
moving on from popcorn. I already said it. My name is Jim and I'm slim.
You've never done, but you've never been the guy.
Okay.
Popcorn Jim. See how that works?
Right now it's popcorn
Roll
Lonaiah.
call. Okay, anyways.
Yeah.
Okay. Starting with the news.
You're already falling down to an A minus. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, B plus.
I don't know. Is that
I'm
an
sorry.
A yet?
No.
Okay.
We'll see.
So Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Oh, Justy.
This is an interesting.
Justy.
I feel like this is the start of probably this will happen in America, okay? But he is granting federal employees a $75,000 benefit to get a sex change. So they are using Canadian government funds that you pay in your taxes. So like if John wants a sex change, $75,000 granted to John.
I don't.
No, I'm just saying.
I don't want
to
it.
do the sex change that he wants. And Canadians are so upset about this. They're writing in like, can't we do something better with our funds? Like we have homeless people.
Yeah.
We have a drug problem.
Yeah.
We have all these other issues, and we're spending $75,000 per person.
Is that 75 Canadian?
Yeah.
Because I won't get as much here in America.
But it's in Canada, John. But the only listen to their
I
stipulation.
thought the
It has to,
healthcare was already universal.
well, I don't know this. I'm just saying they still have to
Just
pay
throwing
for
it out
it.
there. I don't know.
This is from their
Well,
site.
he's giving them money.
He is giving them
If
money.
they want a sex change, you're giving them just here's your money.
So this has to be a person who's over 18 and who has provisional health coverage available.
Okay.
Okay, does that help you, John, answer that question?
Yes. It's part of
Okay.
it. Part of
So these people, the only stipulation is it has to be done by a physician or nurse practitioner who can do the procedures. So you can't just have your friend do the procedure. It has to be done by a doctor. But they're using government money to do that. Don't you feel like this is going to be a movement in America? They'll try and do something like this.
Of course they will. Of course
if they're already trying to do it. I don't know why, but I guess this doesn't surprise me, but it did bother me because PBS obviously is very influential with children. I mean, my kids watch Sesame Street, Caillou, who is annoying, and all those.
Just French for bald. He's very whiny.
He is very whiny.
Very whiny.
Do you ever notice when your kids would watch certain cartoons and they would pick up the the characteristics of the kids they're watching?
Absolutely.
And you'd be like, "You're being a brat today," and then you'd go back to yesterday and you'd be like, "We're done with that show."
Yep. And that is Caillou is one of those.
Caillou was one of those.
Sure.
But PBS is promoting child sex changes. So the tax-funded network aired an emotional segment with interviews of parents claiming to have transgender children. This one couple that they were interviewing said that their child showed signs of trans identity before it could even speak. How? I have no idea this child communicated. But the network was framing Republican laws against surgeries, puberty blockers, and hormones as a way to target a vulnerable population with no alternative perspective in the story.
Yeah.
So they're touting Republicans as trying to like mute a whole movement, but you're changing your child's identity before they can even speak. How can the child even know what they want?
They can't.
Like, I mean, if you're holding a Barbie and a dinosaur and your child grabs a Barbie, that means that your baby wants to be a girl and it's a boy?
Which is ludicrous because a child is making decision on textures and colors, not on gender preferences.
Right. It's just...
Even if they're 6 or 7.
Right.
Right.
Still.
I mean,
Still.
What if they like their mom?
Right.
You know?
My boys were mama boys. That doesn't mean that they wanted to become girls.
Again, and it's the same thing that who's the podcaster, radio host guy that was at talking about transgenderism. Matt Walsh. He also argued, hey, the human brain is not matured until 25.
Right.
And why are you making decisions on
this
for a child who can't even form words?
I know we've said this before, but you can't get a tattoo.
Right.
You can't rent a car. You can't even rent a hotel room unless you're 18, 18, 21, 25.
For a car.
25 for a car. My son is 20, and he was like, I can't even rent a car until I'm 25.
You'd have to do a big old deposit.
Right. I think you can go through a Turo or something. But either way.
Yeah.
But at 3, you can change your identity, but you can't get a tattoo till you're 18.
Well, and at that point, your parent is changing your identity.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's just so sad.
Yep.
Anyways, I think that's ridiculous. Obviously, we all do. But here is an interesting thing, because a couple weeks ago we talked about police officers being attacked, and obviously we've watched through the news police officers continually getting attacked and things and crime being escalating.
Yeah.
And nobody being allowed to do anything about it. Soft on crime is what people are calling for. But in Austin, Texas, police officers are so tired of it that they have 300 police officers quitting in the next 5 months, I think it said. So they're so overwhelmed with calls that they have a 911 and then they have a non-emergency 311 number that people can call. But they're like, we're tired of it. And I don't know if you guys saw a couple weeks ago, but a Florida police officer, there was, I don't know, something happened in Florida. I'm not quite sure what happened. And a police officer is doing a press conference.
Yeah.
And there was a bunch of press there, and they're saying, like, why are you trying to convict this guy? Can't you just let him go? And the police officer was like, I don't know where you have been and if you've been watching, but soft on crime isn't working. He's like, look at the state of America. What is happening? It's pure chaos. In Oregon. They're closing down Walmarts that I changed so you don't have to correct me.
Absolutely.
They're closing down Walmarts because there was so much theft that they went into bankruptcy in that state.
Yeah.
So they shut down the Walmarts because they said crime is outrageous and we can't keep up with it.
You can't stop
I think
it.
in California you can steal things up to $900 and not get any felonies or anything from it. And so people are literally like checking out a Target and someone just pushes a cart out.
Yeah.
Just like, this is normal.
Yeah, you can look at the CCTV footage. People just loading up carts or just grabbing a TV, just walking out.
But you know what I'll say, and I don't know if I would just because of the state of America. You don't know what somebody has. But there are some brave people who will stop these people from walking out. I watched like an 85-year-old grandma being like, what are you doing? And she holds onto the cart and is like, you can't just steal things. Yeah. Like that is the state of America. You just walk out of a store and have whatever you want. Shoplifting is normal. Anyways.
Not a fan.
Not a fan. Not a fan. I know we've talked about some World Economic Forum people, young global leaders. And I thought this one was interesting just because I think we've all kind of followed Ivanka Trump. Yeah. And kind of wondered where she stood and like where her affiliations were tied, especially she kind of like distanced herself after the January 6th situation with her dad. Yeah. And then you've kind of watched her with President Trump rerunning for office. She says she doesn't want to have anything to do with politics, which I think that is interesting because she is a World Economic Forum young global leader. So, is that interesting?
I think it's her husband is behind that.
Jared Kushner.
Of course. Yep. I'm sure he is. Yep. But she is obviously a willing participant. Yes, I don't think that girl does anything she doesn't want to do. Well, she's very well spoken. She's really good at what she does. But I with more and more people beginning to finally take notice of the World Economic Forum's plans, because they say like, you'll own nothing, be happy. We see the World Economic Forum showing its face in smart cities, little steps here and there. Young global leaders popping up. What used to be considered conspiracy theories now more and more being considered to be a conspiracy fact, as the way the worldwide flow of politics, economics, and events and religious beliefs are heading, more and more people are looking at to who's pushing those agendas along. Right. So I just think it's interesting that Ivanka Trump is like, no, I don't want to be involved with my dad, but then here she is a World Economic Forum, young global leader, just like Nikki Haley, which we talked about a couple weeks ago, and she's running. Or is she running for president yet? Has she put her name officially in the hat?
She has.
Okay. Yeah. And she's backed by the World Economic Forum. People, they're like, we're supporting you. So it makes me wonder if maybe Ivanka Trump is...
It definitely muddies the water.
Can I see that page that you just read?
This one?
Yeah. There was one thing I caught. While many pundits continue to push Klaus Schwab's philosophy of a great reset is purely a progressive construct, in reality, there are plenty of conservatives that are working towards these same goals. And you have to know who they are. Absolutely. All right? You have to know who they are and pay attention. You know, there's conservatives that want the 15-minute city, right? Yes. Yep. That they want you to be green, right? And I'll just say it again, you know, all this green, growing green, green cities, 15-minute cities. The whole thing is to control the population. Right. You have to get a pass to get outside of your 15 minutes. All this under the guise that God did not create an earth that can stand up and live for another 1,000 years at least, right? Right. If you count, you know, the millennium is 1,000 years, right? We know that it makes it through that, and only when God decides to cleanse it does it get cleansed in the very end. Do you believe the Bible, or do you believe the scam? Yeah, right. That they're using under the guise of reining the population in to certain areas.
Control.
Yeah, it's just annoying. It really is annoying.
And it's,
But you see how you see the little things like that, like the smart cities, where they're slowly like putting boundaries in place for people. And then you are going to own nothing and be happy because we're going to choose what
Trust me, they're not going to be happy. When this stuff gets instituted, they're not. Yeah. Give it a little time. Give it a little time. Let them get real control like they're vying for. Right. Right. But I'm sorry. Did I?
No, that's good.
What was the next?
Okay, so we know that there's a COVID lab leak, right? That was conspiracy theorist speaking. But this also was an interesting story. So the former UK health minister, his name was Matt Hancock, he actually leaked private messages that revealed that the government made up variants to continue to justify lockdowns and compliance.
variants to COVID-19.
Yes, variants to
Remember
COVID-19.
the variants?
That came out.
This variant, and that variant, and this variant
Omicron
is so much stronger, and
and colds and flu and all that normal things went away, and it was all COVID.
No longer is it a cold. Is everything is COVID?
No, but this guy. So I was reading about this story because they're like, how did that leak? So when he resigned, so he had WhatsApp, and he was WhatsApping. They basically said like it was a minute by minute. Inner working with like him and his colleagues because they're like, when should we release this variant? What should we do? Well, when he resigned, he backed up his WhatsApp to his personal computer. And then he was like, I'm going to share this because I don't have anything to hide. So he actually leaked the messages because he was going to write a book about it, about something. I don't know. And the guy who he's writing the book about was like, can I have all this stuff? And he's like, sure. And the guy's reading through it and he's like, so the government made up variants to continue to scare people, to make people get vaccines, make people get all these things. And it was all government pushed. Does that
and he was, and did you say what his rank was in the British government?
So he was a UK health minister.
Right. And so he resigns. Right.
Didn't Boris Johnson resign then too? Like, didn't he resign during COVID?
I thought it was after.
Okay, after.
Last year, right.
But this guy resigns and then sticks it to him. And all these, what are they calling this?
They're calling the lockdown files. 100,000 WhatsApp messages. 100,000, you guys.
That's proving that the whole variant thing was a setup to keep control, keep everything in lockdown, and to keep their political position.
We're 3 years after, in the United States, we still have lockdown protocols coming from the presidency.
Yes.
Right. Well, you guys, what's his name? Djokovic can't even play.
He is one of the most healthy humans in the world, and Novak Djokovic is not able to even enter
the United States to play in a tournament because he's not vaccinated.
Like, I don't understand that.
Yes, I know. We took away the vaccine mandates.
Australia let them in.
I know.
Even the airlines they don't have that
restriction
anymore.
No,
and
I know. Isn't that baffling? It is
so that's
a political.
Tennis.
Yeah, that's Djokovic.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying is not the tennis federation, or they wouldn't have let him play.
It's the Biden administration saying no.
Yes.
That's what's so baffling.
Rejecting his visa. His passport.
They did. They rejected it.
The number one tennis player in the world.
Yeah, he just won the Australian Open. Oh, that was so great. Oh, man. Against Tommy Paul. I love Tommy Paul. He's an up-and-comer.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched Point Break on Netflix, that is...
Point Break with
the tennis
Patrick
people.
Swayze and...
No. Breakpoint. Anyways, we're digressing. But I just think it's interesting. You guys...
That's a great movie.
Keanu Reeves,
I like Keanu Reeves.
That was a phenomenal
might
movie,
be the best Keanu Reeves movie.
Yeah.
You like it better than Matrix?
Yes.
Yeah, probably. Johnny Utah.
Like Matrix, he could float in the air.
I mean, I love Matrix. But,
I thought you liked him. What's that other movie that he's in that I can't stand?
John Wick.
Yes, stupid. Sorry, Keanu Reeves. That was a bad career choice. Anyways,
I disagree.
Not for Keanu.
John Wick. Have you watched it? Is the most unrealistic.
Of course it is.
It's dumb.
What movie is realistic, Lonaiah?
Well, I just
Tell
don't
me
like,
your favorite movie.
I don't like unrealistic.
Tell me your favorite movie.
It just depends on what mood I'm in for my favorite movie. I just watched Dead Poet Society, and that was a phenomenal movie.
Unrealistic. From the 80s.
It's not unrealistic, actually. It shows what us like. It was like a controlling principal at a school trying to tell everybody how to think, and then Robin Williams comes in and he gives them a different perspective of thinking, and everyone's parents go crazy. Is that not?
I love the movie. I'm just giving you.
Brief.
What's next? What's next?
Okay. This is interesting. The UN Secretary General says banks need to force governments to adopt sustainability development goals to enforce new social credit contracts. So I don't know if you've seen the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals, but they go in line with like the World Economic Forum. So it's like no poverty, clear water and sanitation, renewable energy, climate action, climate. Yeah. So the UN Secretary General Guterres has called for banks around the world to influence lending and investing principles per these 17 Sustainable Developmental Goals.
Yeah.
So they're having a meeting in, I think it's next month, about this, but he calls for world governments and the people to stomp out mis and disinformation online and to better protect the media against the falseness
Protect
of
the
people.
media.
That means
Good
people like
Lord.
us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Us
Right.
rogue people who don't believe the media, who
don't believe the media.
Which is it brings up a topic that we haven't really talked about, but like in the United States, the Federal Reserve is not a governmental institution.
No.
And there are many presidents that abolished federal banks and federal banking system because it would infringe on American people's rights. So we're the Federal Reserve that we have now is actually the third push for a federal bank. We haven't gotten into it, but you can see that if you have banking systems that can overrule a government, they can control what's going on in society. So
they can.
People can look that up. But
can I say, if the Bible tells you to be a Berean and like go and research what you hear at church and make sure that it's true, why wouldn't you do that for what you're watching and what the world is, what the media is telling you, what your government is telling you? Why wouldn't you go and do some research to see if that's really true what they're saying?
Yeah.
That just applies to the Bible to like go do your research? I don't think so.
Right.
I think God is smarter than that. That's why he said it.
But in us case, you can just watch the Final Hour podcast and do your research.
Right.
Yes.
Why not?
Because Lonaiah does it for you.
I do it for you.
Yeah,
and so does it's a team effort here, John and Jim.
It is a team. Yes, it is a team. We all put this thing together throughout the week.
It is. But the global financial architecture does not need a simple evolution. This is what the Guterres guy says. It needs a radical transformation. He added that the inclusiveness of the SDGs are part of a larger goal to influence foundations for a new social contract. So new social contract is just going to be their new way of saying social credit store because it sounds nice, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Like they care about us socially. This is a contract with the banks.
And you're not going to get
You're
loans.
social, aren't you?
You're not going to get your loans unless your global footprint is what they want it to be.
So John,
how much gas are you using? How much electricity are you using? What kind of food are you buying? It's another way of control. And here we go with the banks.
Because some banks have already adopted this. And like John said, the U.S. Federal Reserve and 6 other American super banks, shocker, have begun to a trial carbon-based social credit score to incentivize. Thank you, John. Climate investing. Another large bank in Australia is already doing something similar. How great!
Yeah, it's moving towards that. It's moving towards that. And then we've got, what do we got? We got the whole
central bank digital currencies. Those are
they're pushing the digital currencies, which we don't want.
Yep.
Because then they can control your money. Then they can stop your money. They can freeze your money. Where cash is a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Right. That's why we don't want to go to the digital currency. No. And just like what's the BRIC thing?
Yeah. So BRICS. I had to look this up. BRICS, I'm sure John knows. It's Brazil, Russia, India, South Africa, and China. These nations are accelerating their push.
Countries are adding all the time.
They are, because but they are pushing for central bank digital currencies. So these,
and it's gold backed.
Is it?
Yep.
Okay, see, John knows a lot about this. But these 5 large economies are emerging with this because they don't want to be controlled by the Federal Reserve is also launching some. But it's just crazy. Like
it's heavy hitters though. Russia, big economies. Russia, China, and India are massive.
And they're they're considering joining with Argentina, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Turkey.
Yeah. Saudi Arabia and the BRICS people just did a signing.
Did they?
The last week.
Okay.
But explain exactly what they're trying to do.
So these countries, according to Trends Journal, reports that Russia is planning to what they're trying to do. So they have argued that consumers would be hurt because hold on, that's not it, Jim. You skipped me ahead.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Okay, they're looking to pioneer the digital currency so that they are ahead of it because they want stores and online stores to accept it. They want their countries to accept it. They don't want to accept ruble anymor because that has something to do with the oil.
Yeah. So we talked about that in multiple episodes of the petrodollar
Yeah.
And how in the 70s the U.S. dollar became based on petroleum.
But like,
Saudi
what do you
Arabia,
think this is for, you guys?
Right.
They're trying to get to, like, eventually it'll be a one world currency because it'll be too confusing.
Right.
Because everyone has different central banking digital dollars, and now it's digital. It's not money that you're exchanging. It's just, let's just switch this to one currency. Because now you have the Federal Reserve again.
CBDCs.
Launching, yes, a 12-week CBDC pilot program with major banks.
Yep.
The major banks we talked about, which if you do a deep dive on these major banks, they're very interesting. Didn't something happen in remember when President Biden went to go visit that one country after the who was that kid? That
Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yes, after all that happened with like J.P. Morgan and Chase.
J.P. Morgan is being
tied
to a lot of Epstein stuff.
Say.
The Virgin Islands is where that is taking place. They had a DA that was looking into all of the Epstein things and starting to connect J.P. Morgan and
yes, that's what it was,
and Epstein because. And it's coming out, and
it is coming out.
It's interesting. All the a lot of the train derailment and all the stuff that's going on in Ohio happened the same day the reports that were coming out about J.P. Morgan being connected to Epstein, and so a lot of that stuff is being buried because it's a big enough news. Story.
Makes you wonder if that happened on purpose.
Exactly. So it's big enough news story. To be able to drown out and to bury the J.P. Morgan and Epstein connections. Because
you do. You're like a dog with a squirrel. You get distracted and you're like, oh, there's something that's happening, that's happening. But so what they're trying to say is the financial market infrastructure in the U.S. and banking is evolving, so they need to evolve with it. Yeah. So the CBDC is coming even closer to fruition as the New York Federal Reserve announced yesterday they'll be partnering with these mega banks. So Bank of America, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, Morgan Stanley, and Wells Fargo to trial a carbon-based social credit score system. You guys, how long have we been talking about a social credit score system?
It's going to control you. In the end,
yes.
Right.
What you get is based on your credit score, right?
Your social credit score.
Your social.
Yes.
Not your credit score because you're financially responsible.
No.
But because you are socially responsible.
So in essence, what you believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's a version of implementing your ministry of truth.
Yeah.
Yes.
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 Yeah, they're just going to look at what you do. There's already one major credit card company that if you go to purchase a gun at a gun store, they decline you. And they're like, nope, not happening.
We're not going to be involved.
Right. So you don't think if that gets back to the bank, you bank at one of these places, that they won't shut you down? We've watched that happen.
Yep.
It's crazy. But anyways, Australia has already already started the social credit score program. And they said that the incentives have been great, and they've gotten nothing but good feedback from their people.
Of course, they outlawed firearms in their country about 20 years ago. So,
but I was listening maybe a year ago to
so they don't have a choice.
No, of course not. So you will like it, and you will be happy, and you won't complain. But a Dan Bongino episode where he was talking about the social credit score and everything it entailed.
Yeah.
So like, they'll pay you to sit home and watch Netflix.
Right.
And you'll get 10 coins in your bank account, which can buy you ice cream at Dairy Queen. And you don't think that's going to be a big deal, but when you don't have anything and you're living just with what the government gives you, and they tell you to watch things, and you watch it and then you get points for it, or you're going to go, you drove too much this week, so you can't get any more gas and it's shut down because
you get rewarded for consuming propaganda.
Living in your little box.
Yeah, and you get like 8, let's say you get like a level 8 or something for gas, and you're at 6 and you got to run your son somewhere and you get stuck and you used up all your tokens for gas, you're done. That's really what they're trying to do. It's not a joke. I've listened to that on 3 different podcasts.
Yes, it's what's going on.
It's what's going on.
So pay attention and listen.
Yes.
Right? And vote.
Vote.
And pray. Watch and pray. Is that all the news?
That's it, Jim. You're up.
Well, let me
Popcorn, Jim.
Popcorn. Roll call.
See, guys, see how popcorn works?
I'm just going to start by giving you a backdrop of what we're going to be talking about for a couple weeks. This week and then
Joe.
Then remember we go live Friday, March 31st.
Ooh, it's going to be good.
And then we come back to this subject week after March 31st. But we're talking about King Josiah of Judah. And he was absolutely one of the best, if not the best king Israel ever had.
Yeah.
Maybe even rivaled to an extent King David, right? And for sure he would have been number 2, right? If you call David 1. But Judah, southern Israel, was coming to an end. You could say that the cup of judgment for them had definitely filled up, right? Going back to kind of what we said in the opening here. Because I'm trying to compare this to America in a sense. Where is our cup of judgment, and can that be affected?
Yeah.
Right. And can that be moved? Can some of that judgment be lessened, maybe?
Right.
Or remember, poured out.
Right.
Remember, northern Israel at this time is long gone. Remember, Israel was split into 2 parts. The Jewish people of northern Israel had been dispersed, conquered, and then dispersed by the Assyrians. All over the Middle East, they dispersed them. And the Assyrians also moved a bunch of other cultures into northern Israel, where the Jews were. But Judah was still hanging on. And this King Josiah, his grandfather, just happened to be the most evil king that Judah ever had. Josiah's grandfather was named Manasseh, all right? You know, just running down a list of Manasseh, he burned his infant son in the fires of the god Molech. His, this is the king.
Terrible.
He was into soothsaying, talking to the dead, a lot of dark magic type arts. They were worshiping not just Molech, but Ashtaroth. We've talked about her. She's also called Asherah. And places in the Old Testament. We've talked about her. Baal they had in there, right? These 3, the big 3 were there, along with numerous other ones. He put an idol of Ashtaroth in the temple, in God's temple, and the Lord gave them a little prophecy. Right, and this plays into Josiah's time. Right. But God gives them a prophecy, kind of indicating, where He was with them. And so, to understand where they were where they were at when Josiah got the throne, you have to listen to this prophecy, 2 Kings 21:12-16. Therefore, thus says the Lord God of Israel, but I'm bringing such evil upon Jerusalem and Judah, that whoever hears of it, both his ears shall tingle. I will stretch over Jerusalem the measuring line of Samaria and the plummet of the house of Ahab, and I will wipe Jerusalem as one wipes a dish, wiping it and turning it upside down. And I will cast off the rest of my inheritance and deliver them into the hands of their enemies. And they shall become a prey and a spoil to all their enemies. For they have done evil in my sight and have provoked me to anger since their fathers came out of Egypt to this day. Moreover, Manasseh shed very much innocent blood, filling Jerusalem from one end to another. So what was he doing?
I don't know, but I did read that innocent blood then meant like children. And people who were like righteous and holy because they were innocent, so they shouldn't have been murdered or killed.
So Manasseh,
and can I say
the worst ever.
Can I say one other thing about Manasseh that when I was looking up some stuff about this is interesting to me. So Hezekiah was Manasseh's dad.
Yeah.
And he prayed, wasn't he like sick in bed and he prayed like, Lord, give me 15 more years. And Manasseh was born during that 15-year last lifespan of Hezekiah. Isn't that interesting? So like God extended his life and then this came.
But then Josiah's father, whose name was Amon, took over the throne after Manasseh's reign lasted 55 years.
Think of the evil.
5.5 decades of Manasseh. That he was the most evil king in Judah. Now, northern Israel had one or two that may have been worse, right? They were probably close. Ahab. But Manasseh's son takes over Ammon. Some servants of Ammon actually assassinated him after only he reigned 2 years. It was just it was chaotic. Then the people of Jerusalem rose up and killed the people that killed King Ammon. And the people, the Israelites themselves, made Josiah the grandson of the wicked king of Manasseh, the son of wicked King Ammon, and they installed him on the throne.
He was
Josiah.
8 years old.
You guys, can you imagine though? Like it's so bad. You're like, this 8-year-old's better than what we just had. Let's put him on there. Like an 8-year-old reigning a kingdom.
And this is after 57 years of wicked leadership. Remember in verse 16, we read that Manasseh killed a lot of innocent people,
Right.
filling Jerusalem with blood from one end to the other. It says
That is so sad.
his son was just as bad. And so going out of 2 Kings chapters 22 and 23 and 2 Chronicles chapters 34 and 35, Josiah was put on the throne when he was 8 years old. He had a 31-year reign, all right?
So he only lived till he was 39.
Correct. The math is quick.
And again, what we're pointing out, well, we'll have to, we got to get to the end. That's not until...
I know. I got to be patient.
We're not going to talk about what happens.
Patience is a virtue.
This is JoJo chapter 1. We get JoJo chapter 2 next week.
But 8, I just can't get over an 8-year-old.
But I'm just pointing out one guy.
Short. You could get over him pretty easily.
Really, in a sense, it all started when he was a teenager. Using Josiah, God flipped the switch from all the evil that's going on, right? And if he can do it here in southern Judah, and we showed how he used a really not so good guy in Jehu to flip the whole script in northern Israel for 30 years, he can do it here in the United States.
That's right.
Yes,
through a good guy or a bad guy, or a good woman or a bad woman.
Or a Josiah.
Right. And so,
or an 8-year-old little child.
Josiah,
that's when they called him King Jojo.
Josiah was very different than Jehu up north. They were both warriors, and just looking at 2 Chronicles chapter...
He wasn't a warrior at 8, though.
No. Chapter 34, verse 2 through 7.
You're like stuck on...
John.
This is,
I'm stuck on the 8, I know.
You're like the people that pray to baby Jesus, you know.
We're talking about the 8-year-old boy right now.
He was probably training at 8, though.
I know, but look at that little dagger. He wouldn't have gotten a real sword then. It would have been wooden.
You can tell the coffee is kicking in on Lonaiah.
It's about time.
Right. 2 Chronicles, when she drinks a certain amount of coffee, her eyes actually get bigger.
They get a little more.
They get bigger. She gets more. She uses
expressive.
Her hands more.
Yeah.
Yes. She smiles more. And
it's true. Don't smile a lot.
Unnerving.
But what's funny is if she comes in like that to the office, by the end of the day, she's dragging. Okay.
I have been called spiteful before. I think that was yesterday.
Did I call you spiteful?
It's a long story. It was a joke.
Was that me?
Yeah, it was you.
Okay. It was a joke. 2 Chronicles 34, 2 through 7. This is a Josiah. He did right in the sight of the Lord and walked in the ways of David his forefather, and turned aside neither to the right hand nor the left. For in the 8th year of his reign,
16 years old.
16, while he was yet young, 16, he began to seek after and yearn for the God of David his forefather. And in the 12th year, okay, so that would put us at 18, right? He began
20.
to purge Judah and Jerusalem of the high places.
Now he can be called a warrior.
Of Asherim and the carved and molten images. Okay, go ahead. Ask your question.
So he obviously has really good tutors around him who love the Lord. So the Lord placed people in his life to lead him because if you look at his grandpa and his dad, think of how evil that was. Maybe he looked at them and thought, I don't want to be like that. Like, have you ever
Maybe it was
looked
the
at
mothers.
Well, that's true.
It could have
Praying
been.
moms. You don't know.
They always say who the mother is. I mean, I don't have verse 1 here, but in the 8th year of his reign, while he was 16, he began to seek after and yearn for the God of David.
Yeah.
And, okay.
That's great.
So he starts tearing down all the gods.
Yeah.
And in verse 4, they broke down the altars of the Baals in his presence. Like he's like, I want to be there and watch.
That's cool. I like that.
Are we talking about
Josiah.
prophecy that?
Not yet. John?
Okay, I'm sorry.
This is JoJo chapter 1.
JoJo 1. Well, it happened right where he's talking about.
He's going to get to that.
No,
sorry.
This is a process. You get to see the sun images that were high above them, he hewed down. The Asherim, that's Asheroth too, Ashereth, and the graven images and molten images, he broke in pieces, made dust to them, strewed it upon the graves of those who sacrificed to them.
Wow, that is deep.
It is deep.
He's like, get those ashes and sprinkle it on
Here,
them.
where are other worshipers? Here,
it was defiling to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's give them their gods.
And he wanted to be there, so he's like, I'm gonna let everybody know who is my God.
He did
who
not
I serve.
send people to do it. He went and did it.
He went and did it.
Well, he's just getting started. In verse 5, he says, Josiah burned the bones of the idolatrous priest upon their altars and cleansed Judah of Jerusalem. So the priest that had died, he dug up their bones.
Yeah.
He dug up their bones and burned them to dust. Right?
You know, that's a lot. Good
on
for
the
him.
on their own altars.
Yeah.
He's like, here you go.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll just give you one more sacrifice.
I mean, can you imagine being the guy who's like, go dig that guy up, and you're like, what?
I'd rather not.
And then you bring him there, and he's like, put him on the altar, and then, what's it called? What's it called in the books when they would set people on fire? What's the word for that? Is that what it was? A pyre?
Pyre?
Pyre. So it looked like a pyre.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that.
Oh,
It wasn't.
okay.
They didn't do a pyre for these guys. They dug up their bones.
I know, but they lit him on fire in front of everyone. Isn't that what a pyre is?
Well, but they were already buried. This wasn't a. This was more of a
This is just their bones,
desecration.
not their.
This
So it's
was
a cremation. These are the first cremations.
I don't know about the first, but
Okay, go ahead.
Anyways, verse 6. So he did this in the cities of this was a big project in the cities of Manasseh, Ephraim, Simeon, and Naphtali, and in their ruins round about with their axes. So they took some things apart. He broke down the altars and the Asherim, again, that's the god Ashtoreth, and beat the graven images into powder, hewed down all the sun images throughout all the land of Israel. Then he turned to Jerusalem.
Think of the talk in those cities when he would just come in and be like, the king's here. He wants to dig up some bodies and burn them.
It wasn't, okay, obviously, there's worshipers, right?
yeah.
This is not an easy thing, right? It's not
Right.
something that you just did in 15 minutes, right? And you go city by city.
Can you imagine this people coming to watch that? Like, think on Minnesota highways when there's like
Right.
a fender bender and everybody stops and's gawking.
Rubbernecking and
Think about that scene in the streets. Like,
what the heck is
I would
going
stop
on
and
here?
watch. I would watch. I'd be like,
kinda-
what's that? I'm a nosy person, so I'd be like, what? But not on the streets. I'm like,
Very nosy
what?
person.
I'm like, why are all these people stopped? But yeah, very nosy. Like,
She's curious.
I'm a curious
like
person.
a cat.
You have Josiah doing a complete 360 in Israel, and I'm willing to guarantee you it was not easy. There were a lot of worshipers. This was an ingrained thing. And it says in 2 Chronicles 34:8, when Josiah was 26 years old, he started on the temple. So this, I think all these cities,
Yeah.
and then to get to Jerusalem, that took 6 years.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And then he starts on the temple. Remember, these guys before him had put a bunch of stuff in those temples
Yep.
that shouldn't have been in there. And and so they start to do work on the temple, repairing it and restoring it. And this is just completely nuts.
Yeah.
All right. 2 Chronicles 34:15. Hilkiah told Shaphan, the scribe, I have found the book of the law in the Lord's house. And he
Good to
gave
know.
18 years later.
18 years later.
he gave the book.
Yeah, I found the Bible.
Think about it.
Well,
57 years before him, though.
I was reading that there's some commentators that are saying that they hid it from Manasseh so he
Yeah.
didn't ruin it, so that he couldn't ruin it. So like somebody's like, oh my gosh, he's worshiping these idols. He's going to burn the book. This is it. Let's hide it.
We can't trust him to
Or
not-
else
Great
was it just
point.
or was it just moved because they're doing construction? But I like to believe that they hid it
I would
because
say that
he was so
someone hid
evil.
it.
Like think of
Right.
when someone's possessed. Do you think they want the Bible?
Right.
No, they don't want the Bible.
And I'm sure I'm pronouncing this wrong. Shaphan.
I think it's Shaphan.
Shaphan?
I don't know.
Shapin.
Shapen?
I don't know.
The scribe said to the king,
it's Jewish.
I don't have a Jewish.
Hilkiah, the priest, gave me a book.
They gave me a book. Look, it's a book.
And Shaphan read it before the king. So this is a new thing. Yeah, right. And Josiah had heard the words of the law. When he'd heard them, he tore his clothes.
He rent his clothes, he said.
He was so moved by God, and he's like, we are wrong.
Doing it wrong.
This is mind-boggling. Yeah. They didn't even know where the Old Testament was in the temple.
Right. He just said, here's a book. Let me read it to you.
They found the Bible. Hey, we found the Bible in church.
Right.
But don't you, can I say one thing about God? He obviously concealed it and protected it. Yeah. And isn't it interesting that at that time, he was like, hey, guys, look over here. Here's the Bible.
Right.
Well, I mean, they probably wouldn't have, if they wouldn't have been
But I'm saying God opened their eyes to find it.
Right. And that was Josiah that ordered the temple to be redone,
Yeah.
Right.
He was like, collect the money, don't count it, give it to them, and let them do whatever they want. I don't even want receipts.
Right. And apparently, wow, you did your reading.
I did do my reading.
Shaphan read to Josiah. Whatever he read caused him to grieve because he ripped his clothes.
Right.
I mean, John, do you ever rent your clothes in the office?
I try not to. Only if I want to buy some new ones.
You come home with a shirt like Rambo. You just
dang it! I gotta
go home, and Liz is like, "Not again, John.
John, don't do it." It's been a while since
I've only done that 3 times.
Ripped my own pants because you gotta rip in the back. That's definitely worse.
You didn't rent your clothes. No, your clothes rented you.
Yeah, I.
But think what?
No, go ahead. Think what?
I don't know.
I mean, have you ever split your pants? It's not fun.
I've never split my pants, but I do know some people who have.
I did it one time.
It's like a living word thing. I don't know. There has been some really funny stories about that. But anyways,
I did it on a mission trip in the middle of like devotion. I was like,
okay,
I'm
not gonna get up and talk. But think about Josiah.
Was that in Indonesia?
No, it was in Mexico.
All right.
I think Josiah was so moved by the word of God that he just was grieved at what but look at what he'd already been doing.
Right.
And he was still grieved.
Well, he was pursuing God David pursued God.
He was.
His heart after God, just like David's.
And he's like, I want to do this right.
He's convicted and said, we need to do a different direction here in Israel.
That's cool.
Because our God...
wasn't this a public Bible reading? So think if you're sitting there and all of a sudden the king rips his clothes and you're all kind of like...
it was to him personally at first. But
that's why he ripped his clothes.
This is what he does. He says, it's because of what he heard.
Yeah.
Well,
whatever was read.
But he was in private, so he ripped his clothes.
But 2 Kings 22:13, he says, go inquire of the Lord for me and for the people and for all Judah concerning the words of this book that has been found. For great is the wrath of the Lord that is kindled against us because our fathers have not listened and obeyed the words of this book to do according to all that is written concerning us. So let's do recounting here. Josiah got the throne at 8 years old.
Yeah.
When he was 16, he got serious with the Lord, started tearing down all these altars, idols, other gods with a gusto by age 20, right?
I'd be proud of him if he's my kid.
All right. Decides, let's fix the temple.
Definitely.
At age 26, right? Mm-hmm. And so he tells his guys, we just read in verse 13, go find, and they finally find the Bible while they're restoring the temple. Go find this prophetess, because what we read to Josiah was something in the Old Testament in regards to the book of the law, right? Mm-hmm. That would have been Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, or Deuteronomy. We know it would have been that for sure. I'm sure we could find out easily what books at that time were officially written. But whatever they read...
I read those in the commentaries too, you're right.
Yeah.
That's what I read those.
It was the Pentateuch?
Yeah.
And so great wrath has been kindled against us. And remember, we read the prophecy to his grandfather, Manasseh. We read that prophecy, right? Mm-hmm. So we know that Judah's time was very limited, right? And Josiah realizes this. And just paraphrasing 2 Kings 22:14, Josiah sends Hilkiah the priest and his guys. He go look up this prophetess named Huldah. And so I love the fact that this is a woman, right? And she prophesies to them and says, go back and tell Josiah, more or less reminding him of because of the 57 years of magic, sorcery, burning babies. Remember Ashtoreth?
Yes.
There was always a sexual component to worshiping her. After 57 years of all this, the Lord reminds Josiah through this prophetess that their time is up, right? And bad things are coming. But he also tells the king, let's read exactly through the prophetess Huldah what the Lord says to King Josiah. 2 Kings 22, 18 through 20. But to the king of Judah, who sent you to inquire of the Lord, say this, thus says the Lord God of Israel regarding the words you have heard, because your heart was tender, penitent, and you humbled yourself before the Lord when you heard what I said against this place and against its inhabitants, that they should become a desolation, an astonishment, and a curse. You rent your clothes, you wept before me. I have heard you, says the Lord. Behold, therefore, King Josiah, I will gather you to your fathers, taken to your grave in peace. Your eyes shall not see all the evil which I will bring on this place. And they brought the king word. So the Lord granted them, in a sense, 3 decades.
He did.
Just like Jehu, right there, bam. Right. Because of you, Josiah, right?
Because of your repentant heart.
And what you've tried, not even trying to, he didn't say bringing down the idols.
He didn't.
He did that before.
Before he rent his
knew.
clothes and was like,
but it was
I want to seek the Lord.
It was a reaction to whatever he read in the Pentateuch. And what Josiah does is he calls a meeting immediately. 2 Kings 23:1 of all the elders of Judah at the temple. It says all the men in verse 2, all inhabitants, priests, prophets, all the people, both small and great. He got everybody in there, right? And read the book of the covenant, which they had found in the Lord's house. So immediately he's reading it. And requires the people to be there. He's cute. He says, it says he stood on the platform and made a covenant before the Lord. And it says all the people joined in the covenant. And then this is interesting because in verse 4 of 2 Kings 23, he says, get all the vessels that were in the temple made for Baal. So these guys were putting vessels for Baal, vessels for the temple of the goddess Ashtoreth. He burned them outside of Jerusalem. He took the ashes of the idols back to Bethel, where it says Israel's idolatry began. Okay?
He didn't want it.
Bethel, the house of God, and that's where
they started.
What a man!
And 2 Kings, we'll close with this. Remember, we're only halfway through this deal. He put away
part 1.
He fired. Put away means fired the idolatrous priest whom the kings of Judah had ordained to burn incense in the high places. Fired him in Judah's cities and round about Jerusalem. Also, those who burned incense to Baal, to the sun, to the moon, to the constellations, or the 12 signs of the zodiac. Remember, they were present back then, and to all the host of the heavens. And I'll tell you what, he's just getting started. He's just getting started, and there's some amazing connections here to even going back centuries to things that happened with Jeroboam. And I can't wait to get back here after. Well, remember, we're going live Friday, March 31st, 10 a.m.
Yeah, so this drops Tuesday, so you only have to wait 4 more days to see us, to be with the final hour crew again.
That's right.
Woo!
Join us with your questions.
Yes.
Even write them in early.
Yes, please.
Thank you for tuning in today. Please do subscribe. It helps us with the algorithms. I know I say that word a lot.
Algorithms.
Yes. Thanks. Thank you, Lonaiah.
Algorithms.
You can tell.
Okay. I'm on the coffee.
Yes. She's on coffee, John.
I'm on coffee, guys.
Watch out.
We love you guys.
Yes, we do.
We do.
Tune in next week on the Final Hour podcast. God bless you.